Okay. Before we start, I'd just like to say that this is the last scrutiny meeting of this current council, and I'd like to say a big thank you to all the members of this committee for their support over the last 4 years, in particular over the last year, which has been quite emotional for me. And thank you very much for your kindness and support. Has been gratefully received. Thank you. Right. Any declarations of interest? No. Minutes of the previous meeting? Any questions? Could I have a proposer, please?
Please.
Thank you, Councillor Marcus. And a seconder? Councillor Peacock, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Lost my agenda now. I've got no urgent items. Right, agenda item number 4. Welcome, Chris. It's our last meeting, and I think you're going to be moving to governance next meeting. I'm not sure. Is that right, Councillor Marcus?
We haven't voted on it yet.
Oh, we haven't voted on it yet. Right, okay. Right, would you like to present your paper? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Chris?
Sorry, internal audit. I thought you. Are you ready for me to present?
Yes, I am. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Apologies. I thought you were just still discussing the previous item on governance.
No.
Internal audit report, as tabled, making good progress with the completion of this year's plan. We've been tracking, as you well know, the Cultural Centre and Museum project throughout the year. We're waiting to present our last and final report following the board meeting, which is going to be next week. The key issues is obviously the funding and the conclusion of the final contract with Stepnells. The two other reviews which are in progress at the moment are recruitment and onboarding and financial systems. Recruitment and onboarding is nearly complete, and we'll be issuing a draft report soon. And we're pleased to say that there are no significant weaknesses have been identified. Financial systems is in progress. We're following a similar approach to last year, particularly looking at purchases of payables and also purchase card transactions. We're not expecting there to be any significant new findings in this area. This work is also dependent on the overall financial systems testing work that we do for Cornwall Council. That has been slightly delayed. So as of last year, we'll be doing a 2-stage report, reporting the immediate work for purchase and payables and the purchase card for the Council's Vales of Scilly, and then linking in, when it's available, the overall systems assurance relating to the Oracle in particular. So that's a little update on where we are with the completion of this year's plan. And then for next year, we've been having discussions with Russell and the team, and we've put a little table in the pack setting out the plans for next year, which is carrying on with the tracking of the Cultural Centre and Museum project, doing an update on cybersecurity risks, following through on risk management, and then a few new areas which are looking at the NHS integration, sickness and absence, international recruitment, and then at the back end of the year again we'll be doing a final review of financial systems. So those are the plans for next year. So overall it's a assessment of one of continuing assurance with no sort of key weaknesses being identified by internal audit on the basis of the scope of work which we're completing. Are there any questions, please?
Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, a very small one. I feel I should know the answer to this, but I don't. What's onboarding?
This is when we have a new employee and we induct them into the council. So it's the recruitment processes as to how they are sort of boarded. If we use the term onboarding, it's probably more relevant to say how they're inducted. So this includes their sort of, as a new starter, sort of setting them up on the payroll, ensuring they have the initial sort of mandatory training, etc.
Yeah, that's fine. So it's a new word for induction, really.
Yes, it's induction.
Councillor Marcus.
Just moving on from that, but linked, what about when staff leave? Is that being looked at? Because I always find that that's the harder bit. It's always easy to welcome people into an organisation, but when
Yes.
they leave, that's kind of a bit more tricky.
I'll get back to you on this committee on that. I don't believe that was directly included in the scope, but I will check with Rebecca Allen, who's our person doing the detailed work, as to what she's been doing on the leavers. We do regularly do assessment of the leavers process as well.
Are there any more questions? Right. We'll take the recommendations then. Members to note the internal audit progress report. Members to endorse the internal audit report for 2025 to 2026. Could I have a proposer, please? Councillor Peacock. Seconder, please. Councillor Legg. All those in favour? Thank you. Thank you very much, Chris. Been nice work.
Thank you.
We'll see you next year, we hope.
You definitely will be. Yes.
Okay.
Thanks. Yes.
We
Bye.
won't be definite, but right. Right. Agenda item 5, which is Children and Families Update Report. Just before we start, I would just like to send the committee's congratulations to the Children's Services team. And as I missed my cup of tea yesterday, I will come down either this afternoon or when I come back from my trip away. Thank you very much. Could I ask Joel, please, to present the paper?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, as you've alluded to, yesterday saw the publication of Ofsted's findings from their third monitoring visit, following their more detailed inspection in the summer of 2003. And I'm pleased to say that after 2 very disappointing monitoring visits, it was pleasing to see they recognised significant improvement in the work that we as a team and as a partnership and as a council do. They recognised our commitment to the investment and governance as being critical in allowing us to retain control of our own services, so keeping control of our own destiny when there was potentially a chance that wouldn't be the case if the previous direction of travel was taken. So I think the general tone, the general vibe, all the sort of detail in there about very specific areas, the safety of children, the support being given to families, the partnership working, demonstrates to me that we've turned the corner. The staff and the team are working effectively, and partners are now seeing their own roles and responsibilities becoming more embedded. So a big thank you to all those people, including the parents who participated in the inspection, for their commitment. But I think the key message that we were looking to promote in our public press releases yesterday was, this isn't the end of the game by any stretch of the imagination. This is really just the beginning of turning the corner. We know there's still a huge amount more to do. Our ambitions remain high. Our vision still needs to be coordinated. We still need to embed a huge amount of work. We've just got an action plan which has got reds and ambers in. We still need to do a colossal amount of work. So as an entity, as a corporate body, I don't think there's any suggestion we can do anything but keep our foot on the pedal to make sure that we keep the pressure and raise those expectations even further. There was just one clarification I wanted to make. I was approached last night by email by somebody just querying a line about the Youth Hub. The report sort of makes it sound like Youth Hub was brand new, and I just wanted to clarify Youth Hub has been going for many, many, many years, I reckon since about 2007, 2008. It's in a different venue at the moment. It's been sort of relaunched, rebadged in that sense, but Youth Hub has existed, so I just wanted to clarify that. So that confusion disappeared. Work is ongoing on our corporate parenting strategy. I know some of the members will have been part of workshops and interviews and discussions last week. We also had discussions about that before Christmas, and that's working at pace to try to improve the situation for that key part of the work we're doing, especially in relation to looked after children and being care ready. And I'm anticipating we're going to hear more about that in the coming weeks and months as that report and all the information which has been provided becomes available. The Improvement Board and our 2 steering groups are still continuing to meet regularly. Meetings took place last week of the Improvement Board, and again that sort of driving the change which is coordinated, is captured into the Ofsted report. And again, I think it's just fair to say that I've got half an eye on where we go in 2 or 3 years' time now. The Improvement Board has been amazing at focusing and pulling people together. But we should have been having those conversations before the Improvement Board. It shouldn't need Ofsted to come in and tell us that we need to be doing that. So it's how we run with all the work that Ofsted are doing, but also make sure we're sort of looking to the future to make sure that with things like children and young people's plans, when we become rejudged and regraded, we've still got all the systems and structures to make sure that we just don't slip into those sort of bad habits. I'm pleased to hear the Belonging and Inclusion Group is also performing well. That's feeding into the Improvement Board. As we know, SEND is part of the Improvement Board remit as well. So we're sort of trying to do that in parallel to each other, which I think is absolutely the right thing for us to be doing. Anne's report talks about prevention and early intervention, and of course that remains a priority for us. Councillor Grottick and I were part of a much wider regional discussion earlier this month, and again it was the more we can do to prevent escalation, the earlier intervention we can do is not only great for the child, great for the family, but financially it's also advantageous as well. So again, that has to be a priority for us going forward, as it always has been. At our last more sort of focused meeting, I was discussing the Children and Young People's Plan, and again how we as a partnership of different providers communicate our aspirations and our longer term vision, and I'm hoping that will be much more development over that between now and the end of this calendar year. I think we've got all sorts of ideas. Some are going to be just embedding what we're doing, but again, where do we want to see the service in 4 or 5 years? And I think also that helps with tying it into the corporate plan as well, and how those different aspirations for sustaining Scilly as a great place to grow up and bring up your children fits into that sort of piece of the jigsaw. I welcome some of the holiday activities that were provided by Children's Services during the recent half term. I think that's a really positive thing to be offering and developing. There's reference in this report to the broader childcare sufficiency, after school holiday childcare, things like that. And it's not great, is it? We're an economy which is, for argument's sake, 97-98% based on tourism. Most people in the community are working flat out during July, August, those sorts of times. But for various different reasons, access to affordable, reliable, good quality childcare is not easy at that point in time. So I think, again, as partners, we need to recognise that when school isn't necessarily in session, children still need some support, and after school as well. And I just wanted to move into a section there just to recognise what our childcare sector do. Some of them are going to be paid almost minimum wage to educate, to care for, to toilet, to clean, to safeguard our most vulnerable members of the community, our 2, 3, 4, 5-year-olds. We're going to talk more about recruitment and retention across different sectors, I suspect, today, but we've sort of got that challenge that I think as a whole sort of setup in our country, I think we probably undervalue some of the childcare workers, and I'd love to see them just get a bit more recognition for the work they do. I note the comments relating to post-16, ESFA links with colleges host families. We're having a much more comprehensive discussion about that in about 10 days' time at full council. So I wasn't planning to go into a great amount of detail about that this morning. There's some big issues coming up, so I've spoken to Russell and Anne. I think a member's briefing would be worthwhile and valuable prior to full council to try and address some of those. And section 11 on Anne's report talks about the priorities for the next 6 months, which I think are the right priorities. I think they're the forward-looking priorities. Again, they're trying to embed some of the stuff we've been working towards, and hopefully they give members a flavour for where things will be headed over the next 6 months. But that was all I wanted to say, Chairman.
Thank you. Anne?
Thank you, Councillor Williams. In the usual fashion, a really comprehensive presentation. It wasn't my intention to go through the report in any more detail, but more about opening up for any questions. But just before I do that, a couple of things I think is helpful just to clarify. I want to pay tribute, actually, to Jack at the Old Town Inn, because you are absolutely right. There was a youth hub, but it happened in the Klondike Room in Carngwavel. And actually, what we've really seen is the significant benefits of having a dedicated space for a youth hub. And Jack is an outstanding leader of this community, in my view. So I just feel really important to pay tribute to that, because it's been a transformative experience for the young people. So, yeah, thank you. And we know that we can always do a bit better. In terms of the improvement plan, actually, most of the improvement plan, we're at amber. The parts that are a little bit at red are more to do with our workforce strategy and some of the stuff to do with corporate parenting. So, you know, it's a solid improvement. So just want to be really, really clear about that. And there's lots of conversation nationally at the moment around the childcare reforms. I do think one of the things that we've been able to show to our scrutineers is that actually we are up and ready and delivering on a whole range of the childcare reforms across the country. And that is about thinking family and thinking intervention and really strong collaboration with partners. So I am proud of the service, and we know that we have a shed load of work to do. And thank you, Councillor Williams, because this is not a destination. We're just on a really robust and fast-paced journey. I'm really happy to open up to any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Peacock.
So looking at your priorities for the next 6 months, it says secure permanent staffing structure. Obviously, a number of people are currently on interim posts. I'm assuming that's just making the interim posts permanent, or something along those lines. So in other words, quite a big recruitment drive to those posts if the interim people choose not to continue in their interim roles. Am I correct in that assumption?
So I'm really grateful to full council for approving the restructure for children's services and working really closely with HR colleagues to look at. I'll wait until that stops. To look at how we do that we drive a really good recruitment campaign. It will be about permanence where we're able to do that. And of course, we would love our practitioners to stay, particularly given how brilliant they are. So there's a lot of conversations going on at the moment. But this is a campaign because we will have, due to the restructure, we will have more jobs than we currently have in children's services, which is really good.
Right, and just to confirm that, we have also, as well as having a permanent staffing structure in place, we've also got the funding for the permanent staffing structure in place, which I'm sure we have.
Yes, that's the decision that was made at full council, and I'm really delighted about that and thankful for the support.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sims.
Yeah, in the post 16, I note there are currently 11 host families with the capacity to host 15 young people, which is still a bit of a deficit. Now, I'm just sort of hoping that this figure, I can't imagine the figure will go down. I'm hoping the figure will go up, and that would be the aspiration. Is there any evidence that perhaps we could get more people? Because that's obviously some concern.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really worth us just noticing, just as not so long ago as in September or October, we had 4. Yeah. We've been able to increase that to 11. And the ongoing campaign through the help and support of our 16+ education providers and all of their connections on the mainland has been able to produce, that's a significant jump. So yeah, we've got lots of other campaigning stuff about to happen over the Easter holidays. And I know this is difficult. But it's about choice for families.
Yes, and also I was quite heartened to see that a number of them have DBS certificates. Obviously, clearly that's not compulsory, but I mean that will reassure people on the islands, because whether you have to have it or not, it's obviously preferable that you do.
Yes, and we've been really clear that we are an enabler of this process. Our host families come in all different shapes and sizes, and we have quite a lot of professional people who work in the childcare industry of a sort, either across education or other social care type organisations. And a number of them already have DBS checks and have, through our help and support, gone back through that, just so we can give as much assurance as we can do.
Councillor Legg.
Yeah, from one sort of difficulty posed by island living to another, Councillor Williams mentioned the importance of sort of extra activities and clubs and groups, and one of my concerns is that the increase in the budget to pay for all of this, which is absolutely necessary, is going to put strain on access funding to enable the off-islands to attend those events and things. And I see that those activities are really crucial for sort of prevention of children getting into a situation of need. And I just wondered if you could talk a bit about what can be done to help ensure social inclusion of off-island families.
It's a rather big question, Councillor Legg. So I think there's a piece of work for us to do to really look at what does good island living look like, including what happens on the off-islands themselves, and how the communities on both on St Mary's and on the off-islands are able to come together and provide kind of social inclusion activities. I'm struggling to see that at the moment. I think that, if you were on the mainland, the local sports centre is the place that actually often organises after-school activities, school holiday activities. It doesn't tend to be the Statutory Service of Children's Services. So we've got a piece of work to do, and you'll know I've talked in various meetings like this about the parental approach from the council, whereas actually the partnership approach for voluntary organisations, and then various departments across the council to be able to come together with parents, really, and have a kind of collaborative approach to after-school inclusion, school holidays. And if you're on the mainland, parents pay for holiday club. They pay for after-school facilities, and they also pay for transport. So there's a big piece of work for us to do to get this right, and it'll take a little bit of time.
I think the key thing to remember here is that to get 2 miles from St Agnes to St Mary's is £120 return, whereas driving it in the car or even getting a taxi on the mainland is not £120.
So very, very mindful about the cost of travel. I sign off an enormous amount of money. There's a piece of work for us to do as an island partnership and as the council to really look at boating and costs and transport, and the use of, when there are already, I'm going to get the language wrong, but I'm going to say the word schedule and somebody's going to correct me, but you'll know what I mean. It's a significant piece of work, Councillor Legg, and it's certainly something that myself and Russell are actively talking about.
8 years ago when I joined the council, we started looking at it, and we asked officers to look at it then as well.
I guess my assurance to you is that we're on it.
Councillor Marcus.
Apologies, I should have declared an interest in this item and the next item. This item, I'm an employee of Five Islands Academy, and also my wife runs an after-school, summer play scheme as the Forest School, which has been running for the last, God knows how many years, but really successfully. So yeah, that's good. And in item 6, my wife is also the social prescriber. That's also mentioned in the report. So, questions, I'll try and avoid that stuff. But, so, strategic and operational questions. I think we've mentioned recruitment, but what sort of timeline are we looking at? What are you aiming for in terms of getting people in post permanently?
So part of working with HR when you're doing a restructure is that there are rules and regulations you have to follow to be able to do that. I can't sit here and say to you within 3 months that we will have resolved this, because good recruitment takes time, as does a restructure. But it's our intention to do that in a compassionate, collaborative and fast-paced way. And I guess I would just draw you to the level of improvement we've been able to drive across the rest of the service at pace, and it's our intention to do the same with the recruitment campaign.
Brilliant, yeah, because it is an attractive place to work. There's challenges here and stuff you do here that you wouldn't be doing on the mainland, I guess, in similar roles. So
I think it's great.
Yeah.
We've got a real opportunity at the moment to run a really professional recruitment campaign that becomes very, very attractive. And, there's a reason why I mentioned the care reforms earlier, because we have an opportunity to lead the way in some of the intervention we're doing with children and families. We've got to be really smart in our recruitment about that. The opportunity for practitioners to come to these islands and not have to hold 20 to 30 children on a caseload, which is dominated by court work and child protection, is an enormous opportunity for the right person, because the challenges are also that you have to be a relative expert in a whole range of children's services. So we need people that are as unique as these islands, and it's my intention to run a really professional recruitment campaign.
Cool. Okay, thank you. So one of the things in the report, paragraph, where is it? We're talking paragraph 5, commissioning. You've got 3 priority areas there. When you're talking about priority 2 and priority 3, is this a wider piece of work, or is this kind of we're focusing in on children's here at the moment? You're talking about good commissioning, governance, and commissioning arrangements with the Cornwall Council as well. So talking about 3 service areas. Is that just children's within children's services?
So we have a sponsored piece of work that is led by somebody called Fiona Fleming, who's a consultant working with us that's driving our commissioning work for children. But naturally, when we talk about children, we will fertilise the rest of the system with the learning that happens from children. But yeah, just to be clear, it is currently about understanding what the silly pound is across all partners on the island, and there's a lot of interface with our colleagues and adults too.
Good, 'cause I think you've talked about previously about commissioning a report on island perceptions and how kind of, like you're talking about
Culture and behaviour.
Culture and behaviour on the island. And it's really interesting to me about how people use the islands for a bargaining chip on some things and then say we want to be like the mainland on other things. So that reality, I think, for me, speaks to the post-16 stuff as well and other things as well. So we are on an island and there are frictions and barriers because of that, which we need to flesh out and be consistent of across the board, I think. So that would be good to see that across the commissioning side as well. So yeah, I look forward to those reports as well. In terms of operational stuff, I think what Joel was getting at with the Youth Hub was the fact that we used to do it a long time ago as well, as an ex-Youth Hub worker. Yeah. We used to have a great time when we were up in Cairn, Thomas, having the room there. We had a dedicated Youth Hub room, which made a huge amount of difference, like you're seeing down at the OTI now with Jack. In terms of the post-16 stuff, Joel mentioned there's going to be a report to full council, is that correct?
That's right.
So the report that you've put in here, is that going to be the basis of that report there, and we'd be able to ask more questions there. Because I think there's themes that Councillor Sims mentioned that probably need a bit more teasing out, which we can do in that.
Yes, I mean, I just would encourage a pause for a moment until we're able to produce our comprehensive report on 16 plus, which is also about our transport policy and a range of other things. So
I'm
it
happy
would
to do
be
it, yeah.
really helpful to discuss that at full council.
Okay, so with more information
Yes.
to discuss is a better thing. That's good. Alternative provision, I was going to ask about. There continues to be progress towards developing non-alternative provision, paragraph 10.4. Is there, do you want to give any updates on that at all, or is there anything that you can say?
Yeah, it's okay. So I think that it's really important for us to remember that alternative provision isn't always just about a building, and that actually I wouldn't want to mislead people that we don't have alternative provision. We have a number of wraparound packages for children that need it, that provide an alternative provision for them, supported very much by Five Islands Academy. But we want to be really ambitious. We want to be able to develop a belonging and inclusion hub that will be highly agile in its operation. A hub that has not only are we able to run things like youth engagement and youth events with it, but actually provide our alternative provision and just a very agile, flexible, inclusive place for young people to be. We're working, we've got a small working party together. We know that we have DFE money that we've had for some time, but the challenges, as always, are about where are we going to be able to do that. And the money we have is capital funding. But we have recently engaged with our colleagues in the Duchy, and we're trying to take all of the lessons that have been learned from the really fantastic build of the hospital to think about what are some of the skill base and learning we can take from that to develop it. So it's very, very much in the thinking and trying to make real planning stage.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? Thank you, Anne.
Sorry, Chair.
Oh, sorry.
Councillor
Legg.
It's not a question. I just wanted to thank the officers and all those involved for the work that they've done in getting to this point.
Thank you. All my questions have been asked, so I won't ask them again. Come to the recommendations. Recommendation 1, that the contents of the report and the appendices be considered. And 2, that the progress against actions in the improvement plan and set out in Appendix A to this report be noted. Number 3, that the priorities as set out in Appendix A to this report be endorsed. Could I have a proposer, please? Councillor Williams, seconder. Councillor Marcus, all those in favour? Thank you. Thank you very much, Anne. Agenda item 6, Integrated Health and Social Care Centre. Scott, if you'd like to present, please.
Good morning, all. I've been asked to. Can I just first apologise for the cold? I will try to be as clear as possible.
Slow as possible.
So I've been asked to provide an update to Scrutiny Committee in relation to the Alder City Health and Social Care Integration Project. In the documentation I provided a slideshow as Appendix 1. This slideshow was used to provide information to councillors at a recent meeting. The slideshow should provide the vast majority of information that you all require. It is not my intention to go through this package on a line-by-line basis. However, I will provide a very brief overall narrative. The idea of the integration project is to provide a dedicated health and social care service for the islands, to promote and build a better resilience for the community and the workforce. The construction programme has gone forward at pace, starting from the request for business case that was submitted by the end of 2023 to the new building and foundations that are being put in place at the hospital site today. This is, in my opinion, very impressive due to the difficult logistics required to carry out this build. Not part of this project, but working alongside it, is the change of use of Park House. The business case is due to be presented at full council on the 24th of March and the planning application on the 25th of March. It is hoped that the build will be vacated by the late autumn, early winter, so we're talking about September, October 2025. One of the main focuses of this process has been the development of integrated health and social care service, not just a co-located service. As part of this process, I have with my colleagues worked to engage with services across the islands. We have tried to use as many different mechanisms as possible, as I recognise that communicating with our teams is one of the key parts of the process that we need to undertake to bring people with us during this change process. Work originally started in November 2019 and started again in September 2023, and will continue past 2025 as we work and consult with individual people and teams to develop a service that will improve the lives of people within this island community. The slideshow has many pictures of staff teams working together to deliver an integrated health and social care service. I'm very proud of the input and positive challenges that we've had from our council staff. This has supported us in finding a way to build a better, more effective and sustainable future for adult services on this island. To ensure we've heard what is being said to us, we've set out various ways to engage and consult with our workforce. We've carried out workshop surveys, post an idea, walk with you, provide monthly question and answer sessions that any employee can attend, while using more standard methods such as emails, supervision and staff meetings to ensure that we effectively communicate with people. The workshops were so positive that we had to ask our staff what it was that were worrying them, and this feedback has shaped how we worked and will continue to work with people over the next 18 months. The surveys that were carried out in July 2024 were positive, with words like exciting, insightful. However, there was also descriptive words used like confused, excluded, lots of work, frustrated and big. However, by the time we had our second workshop in September 2024, these words have been replaced by supported, collaborative, motivated, proud, insightful, humble. It is fair to say that all of these descriptive words from the staff are positive. These surveys are key pieces of information that highlights how successful we have been with engagement of our staff, and we will use them again and again as we go through this process. The collaboration that has been undertaken with our workforce has been around shaping an integrated model of care. It is focused on empowering the community, giving them more control, provide care closer to home, while improving productivity of our workforce by investing in them and building and embracing different ways of working, including the use of technology. However, this process has not just been about communicating with our workforce. We've held drop-in sessions across the islands to enable community to come to voice concerns and ideas around the project. We have regularly updated councillors and Scrutiny Committee relating to the work that we are undertaking. Feedback from these sessions and the community have been listened to and acted upon. A good example would be the end-of-life room that resulted in the redrawing of the plans for the refurbishment of the hospital. This project has been and continues to be very ambitious, with key milestones on tight deadlines. For example, we had hoped to have a new facility name agreed by the end of January. However, this has been much harder than we thought, and this has had to be pushed back. This is just one of a variety of significant actions that are undertaken as a group. Some of these include putting in place a joint operational and clinical leadership model, revising multidisciplinary team process, putting in place effective multidisciplinary training packages, point of care testing, implementing of virtual wards. The vast majority of these were due to take place and be implemented before 30th of September. When the two services are co-located in one building, we will be working towards developing a model of care for all professionals with the idea of implementing a phase 2 model of care early in 2026. This level of change within these timescales is difficult. However, we are achieving it. Cornwall Foundation Trust has appointed a clinical lead, and the council is in the process of developing an operational lead role. Union consultations have been carried out by myself and Anita Cornelius for the hospital site, and we are planning to do the same for the council this month. Development of a multidisciplinary team process is underway at speed. That includes effective communication between services. Running alongside all of this work is developing the ways of working differently across the islands to meet the changing needs of the community. There are many ways we are looking at doing this, but one of the main ones would be the use of technology to ensure that the island's community has access to diagnostic systems much quicker, such as digital X-ray, and also the use of drones to provide a more effective response that isn't so reliant on reasonable weather. We have started to discuss the transition work from Park House main current site to the new site, and this is due to start place in late 2025, but that work has already been, discussions have already been taking place to put that in place. And that's it. Any questions?
Thank you, Scott. Councillor Peacock.
So turning to page 53 in our pack, so just that page.
Yes.
Couple of questions. The roles shown in there, do they align with the current roles at Park House? Question number one. Question number two, I was at a Cornwall Partnership Trust meeting and there was a real strong buzz in the room because we had a very strong presentation about the mobile X-ray device. And the statement was made in that forum that a number of people who were unsuccessfully, I'm going to put this correctly, a number of people that wanted to come over to the islands has been seen to show an increase. So the hospital has always had a problem recruiting staff over here. And now with the effect of these positivity around the actual new building, positivity around the fact we're going to have this really unusual model of care, which is unusual for Cornwall and the rest of the country, and also bearing in mind we've got the X-ray unit coming on as well. Will those operational leads go out to normal recruitment process, or are we expecting to pay of existing staff into those roles? And can I also be sure that whoever takes the operational lead role will have effective training and also effective personal career development to make sure we have an opportunity here that we see an increased level of care and an increased level of management at the new facility rather than just drop Park House. To me, it seems like an opportunity to have a bit of a restart and a bit of a rethink.
So, in answer to the first question relating to the management structure, so the hospital has interviewed, and as part of that interview process, the clinical lead and put the person in post. They are now appointed. From adult social care's perspective, I've reviewed and updated the job specification and job role, and that's been agreed, and the grade has been agreed. And that will go through our normal standard procedures about how that then is filled. So the job specification is significantly different to what the original one was previously. And it is now talks a lot about change, it talks about personal development, staff development, specific skills around how the new service will be working. So it is a significant change. So, but we have to go through a set process to ensure that we meet the right criteria for recruitment.
But the intention is to do a recruitment for that post.
We will go through the process and see how that comes in. Yeah, there is a whole process that we'll need to go through to ensure that actually the right person. Now that could be external, it could be internal. We don't know. We have to go through a process to see where it sits within that specification.
Thank you.
Councillor Sims.
Yeah, just a silly question again, really. Again, page 53. At the bottom of the page, you have 23.82 WTE, and on the other side across is 21.08 WTE. I'm trying to work out what this is, and I have no idea.
Whole time equivalents.
Say again.
Whole time equivalent posts. So 23 whole time equivalent posts.
Okay.
Full time posts, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get the W. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Williams.
Yeah, I think what's physically taking place up on Hill is amazing. The time scale that has been progressing from pretty much, was it last August, last September? It was December. A green field, yeah, to what it is now is absolutely brilliant. So congratulations to all involved, either getting cold, wet and muddy or behind the scenes, making sure it all happens. So that's been great to see. But I think as we sort of touched upon in the previous report about alternative provision, having a building is one thing, but the services obviously are far more important. So I'm pleased to hear what you were talking about in terms of investing in the people and supporting the people who are at the sharp end doing the work. I don't underestimate the challenge in terms of that cultural shift, that change. Some people deal with it better than others, but even I think the hardest sort of people still have some concerns when it comes to change and shifts and those sorts of things. So I think that cultural embedding will take a while, but from what I've heard, it seems to be progressing in the right direction. Everything in this report is around health and well-being, but on a sort of slight tangent, I'm still not quite sure where we sit as a council in terms of our point of view on a health and well-being board. We've had our own health and well-being board. We've got a combined health and well-being board. There's talk of going our own separate ways again. I know that's not necessarily for discussion here, but it would be good to get some clarity on what our thinking is, what the process is for having that health and well-being conversation, because it dovetails so much into what we're saying here. So that would be good to unpick. The X-ray discussions sound really positive. I don't necessarily understand all the complexities associated with that, but I'm sure if there's anything the council can do to lobby or build the case, I'm sure we would be doing that. I'm hoping when Park House moves to the new site, I'm sure there's going to be personal and private possessions people will want to take. They want it to be homely. We don't want it to look like a sort of an IKEA store, but I'm just hoping there's also money available to make sure the decor and all the soft furnishings and everything like that is really, really fitting for the building, the new premises, the new facilities which are up there. So I'm hoping that's not sort of going to be sort of engineered out of the costs. It might be more for a later report in the agenda, but I was just wondering where we are now with staffing. There's obviously, with almost every authority in the country, there's a pressure on agency staff, and the pressures and the challenges that agency staff bring to the table. Are we getting any progress in reducing our reliance? That's the word. Reliance on agency staff. There's talk about strategies and international recruitment and things like that, but I'm just very conscious on a bottom line figure. It's more expensive to have agency staff generally than internal staff.
It is. I suppose if I take that and I go back to the piece of work that you was talking about relating to the excitement within the hospital and the fact that they've been able to recruit to positions, etc. There is a underlying excitement across, the Ulster City, Cornwall, etc., CFT, and that is going out into the community about what is happening here, because it is unique. It is unique to Cornwall. It's unique to England, not the UK, but unique to England about the work we're trying to do to try to integrate two services. And the exposure that we've had from people that have been coming across to look at it, to talk about it, and then go back and speak across the NHS relating to what is happening has created this excitement relating to what's happening, which has supported health being able to recruit to those positions. What we hope is that when we go through this process, that recruitment will rub off on the care home. For example, I know Claudia interviewed with the hospital, it must have been a while ago now, but end of last year, and there was about 7 or 8 international recruitments that they wanted to appoint, but they couldn't because we didn't have a licence. We're still going through that process. We're hoping that process will come to an end fairly soon. However, what I'm trying to make is that there are people out there who want to come. They want to work with the care home. They want to work with the hospital, because actually it is that joint piece of work that we're doing. So as we progress through this process, I'm hoping that it will support a fuller recruitment to the care home. But also there is the bit around working together as an integrated service will reduce the pressures on both services. So, if we have staffing pressures within the care home, then the hospital can support. If there's staffing pressures within the hospital, the care hand can support. The ability to train people to do both types of jobs is essential to do that, which is when we're talking about that training packages, the training packages across all services to bring people together, bring their skill sets together. I think that's the key part of what we're trying to do. In relation to the homely bit, we have, well, Claudia and myself and the rest of the team have been working with CFT to develop the new build for the care home, and we've had many discussions relating to this is someone's home. You know, we don't want a sink so you can wash your hands as you go out the door. You know, this isn't a hospital ward. So we've had those conversations. We've done that piece of work, and the building that's coming back, while it is effectively a care home, is as homely as it possibly can. The work that's been done at Park House relating to the refurbishment means that the stuff that's been purchased can go back into the new build. So therefore there is the new homely furniture has all been built and purchased and isn't currently within the care homes, and that can be transferred across. So that work has been ongoing. So when we knew this was happening, we've always worked towards that. So that transition from Park House currently to Park House new should be fairly seamless, and it should result in a very homely, nice environment for people to live.
Just on that theme, we're talking today a lot about people in the care home or in the hospital. Just some assurance for all the people who are in their home but getting day-to-day support from your team. I assume that's all going well within the capacity of the workforce we have?
Yes, absolutely. So everybody who needs care and support is getting care and support within the care home or within the community. The current recruitment is, we're still reliant on agency staff. But that agency staff is within the care home, that is. That agency staff are long-term agency. They've been here for a long period of time, so they know the service very well. They know the people within the service, and they know the clients and the residents within that service as well. So yes, while we are relying on agency staff, we've actually had two new recruitments come in this last couple of days. So we're planning to recruit next week, to interview next week. So the recruitment process is ongoing. However, we have managed to pull together a staff team that is supportive, know the people, know what's happening. Very similar to Children's. You know, Children's has, you know, a lot of agency staff, lots of interims that are in place to provide the care and support. Park House has had to do the same, and we were lucky enough, as Children's, had to have that long-term group of people who enjoy working here. To be fair, don't want to work here full-time because we've tried, but actually are happy doing the agency staff and staying here during that process.
And I think my final point would be whether we were sat on Scilly in Cornwall, Devon, Wiltshire, Northumberland, wherever, we'd be having similar conversations about agency staff. It's not unique to Scilly from all the conversations I have with colleagues. It's a national challenge, and we're just part of that discussion as well.
The one thing I would add to that, Councillor Williams, is I think if we were sitting anywhere on the mainland, we would be having a slightly different conversation. It's funny to say, but I think because we're on Scilly, we're able to have that consistency of staff because they stay here. If you was on the mainland, you would be getting, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Miggins coming on one day and another Mr. and Mrs. Miggins the next day, because actually you just recruit into those people. You know, the agency staff aren't regular because actually there is a pool. There's more than one care home in Cornwall, so therefore, you know, people have the opportunity to go around and work wherever they wish. Well, we're lucky here to have a group of people who like to come here, who stay here, who work very well within this environment and know the services.
Councillor Marcus.
Yeah, I think that, I think the point you're saying, Joel, links into what you're saying about childcare as well. It's a poorly paid sector of the economy, and those caring jobs are not well paid at all. And should be better paid than they are. So first thing, timelines. In the report it says, I think it's just page 51, we've got a couple of milestones that one we've passed. Have we got a name yet?
No, we haven't. So
okay, that's fine. That's coming.
Yeah, that's definitely coming. Yes.
Okay, good. Point of care phase 1 implemented, virtual ward access in place. Has that been done?
Yes, it's working, but I wouldn't say it's embedded properly yet.
Okay. And when will that's more health stuff, isn't it? Than
But it is all part of this process, so therefore, you know, the whole idea behind this process is keeping people at home for longer and keeping people independent for longer.
Okay.
So point of care testing can be done, you know, anywhere. It doesn't need to be done in hospital. It can be done at home, etc., etc. So that's the process.
Okay, cool.
This is important.
And in terms of other bits on that timeline, are we kind of on track, or is there some? I'd expect there to be slippage, to be honest. So it's fine to say.
Do you know what? I generally think that the vast majority of the work that's been undertaken has been on scale. Mm-hmm. You know, for example, the main thing that we wanted to do was the leadership structure, because the leadership structure is supposed to be driving forward the change through the transition process. That needs to be done by the end of March. It slipped back. I suppose it was supposed to be done by the end of February, but we've had to push that back. But actually, I think it will be done by the end of March. So I think that's on point. The name has changed because I think there's you know, we've consulted with staff. We've put out things in libraries for people to have conversations, and we went to the school as well to come back with suggestions. You know, some of those suggestions. Some of those suggestions weren't appropriate. Other suggestions were very health-based. Yeah. And I'm very clear that actually this is an integrated health and social care model. You know, so the Nightingale home isn't really appropriate for something that's health and social care based. So we've done some discussions, and we've put forward some suggestions, and then once that's done, hopefully that will be done fairly soon when it comes back from various people and go to the community.
Okay, so in terms of that September milestone, for the workforce plan, you reckon that's there or thereabouts?
Yes. Yeah. So the workforce plan will take place in September when Park House moves to their new location, and then the two staff teams come together. The MDT process, the multidisciplinary team process that we undertake to manage and to monitor and to work together, will be that key piece of technology that key piece of process that will enable us to work effectively well together. That will be done hopefully by September. I'm looking at Abby staring at me thinking that's not going to happen. It will happen by the end of September, because actually when the two services come together, that's the bit that will work to go forward. From September onwards is around then actually how do we work with the staff, and how do the staff, the training packages in place, etc., how does that then knit together? So therefore, when we come back in 2026 and we look at phase 2, we will then have a very clear insight of how we need to progress through to end of 2026.
Okay. Cool. And just looking at the structure on the next page, I'm just aware, is there equality? There still seems to be two sides to the structure. Yeah, there's a health and there's a social care side. Is there equality between the roles? And you're talking about, sounds great, you know, a sharing of roles and people diving in to help people out and things like that. Is there an equality of remuneration between the two sides to ensure that help and that cross-fertilisation can happen?
So for the last 3 to 4 months, we've been doing a piece of work relating to looking at both the roles, job specifications and pay. There are some differences, but actually those differences aren't significant. And I think that's the bit that I was quite surprised of, because I thought there would be a significant difference between the two, but there's not. So that correspondence between the groups of people will be something that we can work with as we go through. So as we go through from phase 1 to phase 2, that's what we'll be looking at, then how we develop individual people to give them to upskill them, to enable them to look at how they develop.
Yeah, because what I'm looking for is assurance that we can attract people into these roles. I'm seeing residential community carers at grade 2 and assistant practitioners at band 4, or healthcare assistants at band 3. So those numbers look different to me. I don't know whether they're the same remuneration.
So the healthcare,
I don't really.
Yeah, but I suppose that you're talking about two different roles. So if the grade 3s for the care home is the same as the grade 3 healthcare assistants for the hospital, so those two are very similar across the two. But grade 2s, the hospital haven't got that grade 2 role.
So yeah, so what I want assurance for is that we've got health saying, oh my God, this project's amazing. We've got loads of people wanting to be here. We've got people are flying, they're throwing themselves at these jobs. I want that to be the same for Park House as well. It'd be great for you to be able to choose and to turn down people and to say, yeah, come and work with us. This is a really exciting project. You get to do this X, Y, Z. I would. So yeah, from my role as a councillor, I just want to make sure that we are ensuring that strategic recruitment package can be in place, like we're seeing with children's as well. You know, that people we're able to sell it, we're able to promote it, and it's great that people from all over the world want to come and work with us, but we need that locally here as well.
Sourced.
And I'm not sure we're seeing that at the moment. So
I think that so work has been undertaken. You know, Claude has done some work relating to the school, looking at apprenticeships and stuff like that. So you know, looking at homegrown, moving people across is key. So that part of that process is ongoing. But what we need to do is to make it attractive. And the way we can make it attractive is to say it's a career. It isn't, you're not just a carer, it is a career that you'll be going through. So that training package, how we develop that training package across services will enable people to look at, promote, and then become, improve themselves and become part of the career package, not just a carer.
okay, that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Beacott.
Yeah, just picking up on Councillor Marcus's point, just and about the bandings and the gradings, is there any, if for example on a particular day, someone in our grade 2 goes off sick, and obviously we then need to get someone in place pretty quickly, is there a possibility of getting staff from the hospital to come and work in the care home, and is there sort of I don't want to use the word fertilisation, but you understand what I mean. So whereby you've got, let's say, a quiet day in the hospital, whether we can move some of those staff around at the lower levels, or is it very much hospital care?
In September, when Park House moves from current location to the hospital location, they will be working in separate areas. However, work is currently being undertaken to look at how we can use and develop those two roles together. And I think I said it, or I know I said it earlier, relating to, so it doesn't matter whether if there's gaps within the hospital, can care home staff go and work within the hospital? And if there's gaps within the care home, can hospital staff go and work within the care home? I think that's the key part. But that is a process that we need to go through. We can't just turn around and say, well, actually, today you're in Park House and you can go and work in the hospital. They need to have specific training, they need to have specific contracts, insurance, etc., etc. That is a process that we are currently going through in phase 1 to phase 2.
Right, because obviously for me that's the cultural bit that's really important.
Yeah.
That's the cultural bit of not someone being in the hospital saying, oh, I work in the hospital, I can't possibly go and work in the care home. It seems such an, if integration is going to work properly, for me, some of these roles need to be,
I think that
I can't think of the right word for that, but you understand what I mean.
Yeah, no, so I do, but I think what I'm trying to say is that if we're talking about culture, and we are talking about culture, if we look at the 2 workshops where we've undertaken, and we've spoken through that, if you look at the 2, what people thought at the first time, there was a lot of, not a lot of, but there was apprehension, there was worry, there was concern. What's happening in my job? Will I get made redundant? Will I have to, will I be working for CFT? Will I be working for the council? We had all those types of conversations. When we went back in September 2024, and when we go back again fairly soon, there was a significant difference in that change. The people were happy. They enjoyed the project. They looked forward to the project, the integration of working together for the better outcome. The MDT. As we've started this process now, we're currently doing daily huddles, looking at how services, how the hospital and the care home need to work together to provide the care for that support. So we are starting down a transition process, but that's more practical. It is more practical as we're talking at the moment. But we are working down that route to ensure that when we do go across in September, we are on a planned trajectory for a fully integrated health and social care system as soon as possible. Definitely losing my
Councillor Legg.
voice.
Yeah, sort of similar to what Councillor Peacock and Councillor Marcus were just saying. I was sort of looking at the last 6 months of the timeline in the pack, and thinking that those first 6 months in the facility are going to be key for establishing that culture and learning how it all works. And it was really reassuring to see that you're kind of not going in with an expectation of a model of care and that's set in stone and that's what we're doing. You've got 6 months there to understand how it works and learn from it, and obviously that can continue into the future and of learning and adapting. I don't know if I have a sort of question around that. I just wanted to highlight that and say I'm glad to see it's there, and all the positivity and excitement about the project, and I hope that can continue when it moves in. And it sounds like you've got some great people joining the staff who are going to really succeed in that. So it's great to see that the building is progressing really well, but the larger work is probably that integration, and it's great to see all the work that's going on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one question from me. How are we with the housing situation for our staff? Are we still wanting more if we get staff from the mainland? Can we advertise a job now with accommodation?
Yes.
Right.
So we have accommodation for staff that are being currently filled by agency. So as we recruit to those staff, then we will lose the agency to go into those houses.
Yeah.
However, what I can't say is that we will need others as we move forward.
Yeah.
So as we recruit into them, we will need more houses in the next 6 months or so.
Right, thank you. Any more questions from anybody? Right, we take the recommendation that members note the work that is being undertaken as part of the Isles of Scilly integration project as set out in this report. Could I have a proposer, please? Councillor Marcus, seconder. Councillor Legg, all those in favour? Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. Right, agenda item 7, council performance summary and corporate risk. So that's with you, Linda. Thank you.
This is the quarter 3 performance that was taken to full council in February, I believe, and it's now come to scrutiny, as it says, for members to consider if there are any items that need further scrutiny. Self-explanatory, I think, if you've all looked at the performance.
Any questions? Councillor Williams.
More observations, I think, than questions. I think we should do a report to the community based on what's in here, almost an end-of-term review of what the council have done for us this year. There's so many really good things in here, some ongoing challenges we face, some real good day-to-day stuff. But it would be great if every June, July, whenever it is, I got to get an end-of-term report for my little boy, and he generally does okay. And I think the council owe it to the community to do something similar. I think we should write to the community and say what your council has done, those sorts of things. So I'd love to see us take some of this and be a bit more outward looking. PDPs, I noticed performance development plans is pretty low, 36%. Doesn't seem like a great figure, so I push officers to focus a bit on that, as for some of the statutory training as well. We've touched on agency workers already, but again, it's as we let's not go around that again, but it's a big financial challenge, it's a big issue for us, and any solution would be a great solution, even if it's just part of a solution. I really like some of the work Active Scilly are doing. It doesn't sort of get highlighted in other places, but when they're doing the swimming lessons, the dance sessions, all those sorts of things, the active, healthy side of stuff, I think that's really positive and shouldn't go unnoticed. I noticed some of the things that we referred to local outreach engagement boards and things like that. It's all a bit outdated. that could probably be wiped out. CQC inspection, I've been asking for this for a while. I think I'd love for members to be given a bit more information about what CQC will be inspecting us on, where we perceive our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities to be. I don't know if I'm going to be interviewed by CQC, but at this point in time, I wouldn't be really sure what they might be asking me about. So I know better than almost anyone in this room what it's like to go through that whole inspection process where things are found to be wanting, and the cost and effort and energy and all those things that Anne has come in to try and turn around. Anything we can do prior to that, to me, seems like a good use of our energy. We sort of talk about workforce capacity being red, but corporate health being green. I couldn't quite see how those two sort of married together in the the table. It's almost like going to the doctor and him saying you're incredibly healthy, but your heart's about to stop. It just seemed to be the two contradicted each other to have those two. So I'd just like to explore that perhaps. But the other risk I sort of find in every conversation I have with Anne or Russell, we talk about the fact that every time we dig under the surface in children's services, we find policies which are outdated and aren't particularly fit for purpose. Some of them are just archaic. Contracts with external providers sometimes aren't offering value for money, aren't fit for purpose, and again, some people don't even know where they came from. Contracts of employment we spoke about this week are outdated, and that's in the children's services environment. So I'm assuming it's probably not unusual, or wouldn't be surprised to find that across the whole council. But there doesn't seem to be much of a risk associated in our risk assessment to finding out about all this old stuff. I think we need to do a bit of internal housekeeping, I think, to bring ourselves up to speed before we get caught out again, potentially. But yeah, they were my main observations. Lots of really good work, some really good stuff going on. But I think we probably just need to scratch below the surface to do some housekeeping as well, perhaps.
Thank you. Scott, would you like to come in about the question about the CQC?
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, Councillor Williams, I have an LGA representation coming across in end of March, beginning of April. At that point, I was going to arrange for him to talk to councillors, lead members, chief executives, etc. So I'm happy to arrange that as a general sit-down session that people can come in and have a conversation with him. And it is around how CQC, the questions, what will be asked, what's required, etc., and what to expect, I think, is the other point.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful. And going through, I assume you've got self-evaluation forms, all those sorts of documents, that's sort of a whole annex of what they'll be looking for, just so that we are assured and confident about those things would be really helpful to me.
Thank you. Councillor Marcus.
I think maybe
sorry.
Russell.
Russell.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, good. I was just coming back to Councillor Williams' point about scratching the surface and other services. Yep, I have already started that process. There are a number of policies and areas that need review and improvement, and we've already started doing a significant amount of work. So try to give members assurance that we can't do it all at once, but there is a significant amount of work ongoing at the moment to update certain policies. We're updating all our HR policies, all our emergency planning policies. A number of finance policies are under review. And in addition, we are looking at activity around the highways and arrangements and the right training in place for the maintenance plan. There will be more, but we are progressing and we are trying to ensure that we do learn the lessons from children's services and make sure that all our policies are up to date, and then they're properly maintained up to date with somebody actually ensuring that we do have a register that all policies are regularly reviewed. So it's in hand, but it will take several years before we're finally right up to date. And at that point, we will still have to continually review those policies to ensure they don't drop out of date or become overtaken by other events. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Councillor Marcus.
Yeah, the policy work was highlighted by the Governance Committee about, I don't know, a year ago, 18 months ago or something like that. We there was meant to be movement on that. So yeah, it's not just children's social care. It's across, like I say, it's across the whole organisation. So yeah, that does lead into the workforce capacity risk and the corporate health risk as well. So maybe they need to be reviewed and linked up a little bit more. It'd be good once we get into the new regime, the new council, to retrain and refocus on risk. I think get councillors a bit more cognizant of what the two columns mean and what actual impact we can have and how we can direct is not the right word, but maybe not influence is probably not the right word, but just highlight to officers where we are concerned about and gain assurance from officers about which bits are being spoken about in the community and are more of a worry to us. So that'd be really good to get that in place for the new member intake. In terms of the narrative, it's good to see again more data than even in the full council report around children's services. So that's really good. It'd be good to start getting down into that and starting to be able to analyse that. So yeah, look forward to training on that. And like Councillor Williams says, it looks like staff are going to be busy doing PDPs for the next few months because there's quite a few there. The RIDOR instance and accidents again went up in Q3. So it's good that there's more reporting. It's bad that there's more incidents. So that's good. Vacant posts went up as well in Q3. So I don't know if there's anything that needs to be said about that. Yeah, and that's it really. So more training would be good.
Thank you. Any more questions from any? Oh, Councillor Legg.
It would be really great on the performance data to have some of the historic data present, perhaps a graph with sort of previous years on it as well, to see how we compare year on year. For example, some of these targets are talking about increases. For example, you know, we've got a target to increase the number of people using the pool and the gym and things like that. It would be great to know what happens in Q4 each year. Like, it's winter, but people are gearing up for the season. Is it that lots of people go out and use the pool and the gym and stuff at this time of year? Because according to this, we want a 5% increase and we need 2,000 people to have used it this quarter just to match last year's. It would just be great to have some of the historic data and see trends and predictions.
Russell?
Yeah, I think I'd just come in and say that I think we are beginning to get the performance and risk reporting back to members into a sort of what I call a steady process where it's coming on a regular basis. But there's no doubt that the performance and the risk both need much more work doing on them to make them more useful. They will develop over the next 12, 18 months. It's one on top of my list of things to be done over the next 12 months is to certainly overhaul some of the performance reporting. It does need a review, and we take on board. I would agree with the councillor that some way of showing direction of travel is definitely needed. It's missing at the moment. It's just a, you know, it tells you where you are at this point in time, but it doesn't tell you where you've come from and where you're going. So we do need to improve it. But to say, we're tackling it one bit at a time. I think we're now getting that steady sort of drumbeat of the reports coming through regularly. They're now complete. The risk review is now being date stamped every quarter. Every risk is being reviewed every quarter. I know there's good debate about whether the risks are red, green, amber, etc. And that's good because they're now up to date, and then we can have those better debates rather than say, oh, it's out of date. That's why you've got a different opinion. So we're getting there, but a lot more work to be done.
Just one question for you, Russell. You said the full council have got their 12-month agenda in place. Is that possible to share that with Scrutiny so we can see what we can scrutinise during the year and have a forward plan?
Yeah, we are developing and have been developing a forward plan process for the last 6 or 7 months. It's beginning again, another thing which is just beginning to bed in. And yeah, we can share that with Scrutiny as we go. It still needs a lot of work. It does take a long time before that really beds in, but again, moving in the right direction, further improvement needed. But yes, we're happy to share that.
Thank you. Any more questions? At the beginning of this. Where are we? Take the recommendations that members consider the performance summary and risk register for Q3 of the financial year 2024 to 2025 and identify any areas that they would feel would benefit from further scrutiny. That members consider the format and content of the performance summary and corporate risk register for Q3 of the financial year 2024 to 25 and provide feedback on areas where the report can be improved. Could I have a proposer, please? Councillor Peacock, seconder. Councillor Sims, all those in favour? Thank you very much. I'll close the meeting. Thank you.